With the increasing awareness about climate change, more and more policymakers have started to look for ways for correcting what is one of the biggest market failures of our times. The fact that CO2 emissions in the past did not have a price. So more and more governments are putting a price tag on carbon. We see that, for example, in the European Union with the EU emissions trading scheme, which is now also extended to Switzerland. We see it regionally in the United States, in Canada, in China. So different parts of the world have started to actually introducing a price on carbon. And that has really changed the way we look at emissions. Emissions used to be free. That's what caused this kind of tragedy of the commons. But they are increasingly getting a price. It is difficult to kind of close every loop and really come up with one global system, which would be desirable to solve a global problem. But in the absence of the perfect solution on a global scale, we do see kind of the spreading of national solutions to climate policy, which kind of fills the gap. It's the best we have, it's not perfect, but is incentivizing more and more companies to act. When we come to national policies, there are, of course, some countries who are less proactive on this issue than others. The question for international companies then is, should they kind of bet on those few countries that are still kind of maybe not addressing this issue in a proactive manner, or should they try to anticipate future regulation? And in my view, it is much more reasonable to kind of prepare for things to come than to hope that maybe you can extend this period of time where you don't have to comply with carbon regulation by a few years. There's a couple of different patterns emerging. I mean, there are some companies where a new CEO comes in and just has a kind of different view on this and then starts kind of transforming the company. We see, for example, the Swiss utility BKW, where kind of the CEO really thinks this change needs to be implemented, and then she kind of started acting on it, kind of started acquiring companies that fit the new strategy, started divesting from their nuclear power plant that they had, and so step by step kind of transforming the company. Some companies take their investors more actively on board in that process. An example being Ørsted in Denmark, the company that used to be Dong, the Danish oil and natural gas company. And they completely turned their company around basically with the help of a prominent investment bank that kind of sold their old business and acquired new assets. So almost more like an M&A transaction than an internal kind of organic transformation process. And then there are also some interesting aspects or examples of both companies but also kind of societies that try to take a very participatory approach. When I think, for example, of the UK government, they've now kind of started doing what they call climate assemblies or citizen assemblies, so that they would kind of gather groups of citizens to kind of debate the issue and actually come up with their own solutions of how climate change should be addressed. That's a little more kind of difficult to imagine in a corporate setting because obviously kind of it's the management of the company that's responsible to the shareholders, and kind of they cannot just kind of ask their employees to come up with some ideas and then implement those. But I think some sort of participatory element of really getting employees on board, getting other important stakeholders on board will actually help the quest for climate solutions. Addressing climate change is really key if we want to secure freedom tomorrow. The faster we do this transition to clean energy, the more we will have kind of freedom in terms of room to maneuver in the years to come. And if we don't address this issue now in a very timely manner, we will actually be quite constrained in the options that are left. So acting now is really key.